Mr. Cuban, what stops you from reviewing the King Cardano Ada? Take fundamentals, usage, energy consumption. It will beat everything in all dimensions.
Are you personally able to use ADA for anything? If so, what have you used it for? That's the question I ask about all crypto. Do you find yourself using it for anything that you find value in?
You're breaking my heart, Mark, but levity aside, come by the farm in Colorado sometime, and let's chat.
I have to confess, much like Mr. Cuban, I've never found myself particularly charmed by Cardano. It's just never been my jam. But this project is mentioned more than any other in our comments section each and every week. So I decided to keep my personal biases firmly in the Hoskins and take a good look to see what their DeFi roadmap looks like and to try and understand if Charles really is in charge. So let's start here. This is the Cardano roadmap. It's striking, isn't it? It's possibly the most beautiful roadmap you've ever seen. It's kind of unique in this space. It pays tribute to the leading lights of literature and computing and represents the monolithic, almost grinding progress of the Cardano project. Gauguin, named after computer scientist Joseph Amadei Gauguin, is the third major milestone for the project, and the ADA community is waiting with bated breath for the upcoming Alonzo hard fork, which was definitely coming the end of April. No, wait, it's definitely coming at the end of May. End of June. It's definitely coming soon. See, this is kind of a recurring theme with Cardano. Boy, do they like to take their sweet time. And boy, does a deadline not matter at all. But our sponsors are going to get antsy if I spend any more of my sweet time waffling on before giving them their dues, so here we go. Balancer are up to some pretty funky stuff to help ease the pain of high gas costs on Ethereum. Trade as much as you like and recoup most of the gas costs damn straight. And in their new BAL for Gas campaign, traders are receiving 6 figures worth of BAL tokens every week. And with version 2 just around the corner, Balancer is becoming a one-stop shop for DeFi liquidity. Version 2 brings with it stable pools and weighted pools tightly integrated under a single protocol with flash loans, lending via asset managers, and much more. Check it out at balancer.finance. Next, we have Aave. And fun fact, the name Aave is taken from the Finnish word for coffee. No, it's not. It's Ghost. And it is a decentralized open source and non-custodial liquidity protocol on Ethereum. Depositors earn interest by providing liquidity to lending pools, while borrowers can obtain loans by tapping into these pools with variable and stable interest rate options. Deposit in Aave protocol and receive A tokens, which accrue interest every second right in your wallet. Seriously, you can watch your balance going up every single second. Nice. Swap any of your deposited assets at any time to get the best yields on the market. For the developers out there, Aave features access to DeFi building blocks like flash loans and credit delegation. The Aave protocol liquidity pools are now available on Ethereum and everybody's favorite sidechain, Polygon. Now, do you remember your first DeFi transaction? After juggling 5 or more tabs on your browser, you probably gazed at that Etherscan confirmation, feeling like you just contributed to the future of finance. Except you got quickly lost in the world of gas prices, vaults, pools, hard forks, degenerates, and sushi chefs. Fortunately, Zerion has built the dream tool for managing your portfolio. Track all your token balances across wallets and chains, access every kind of DeFi asset, including indexes, pools, and yield strategies, and trade at the cheapest rates with no extra fees. And that is because Zerion sources liquidity from every decentralized exchange like Uniswap, 0x, and 1inch. No sign-up required, no fees, and a blissfully easy UI. Simply connect your wallet at app.zerion.io. Right, now back to our main story. Cardano. And let's start by jumping into CoinGecko, because I would imagine this is how most people first encounter this project. So this is how most people encounter Cardano when doing some basic research. They'll see the top 10 coins on CoinMarketCap or on CoinGecko, and they'll kind of have a pretty good understanding of what they're about, sort of. Bitcoin, store of value, digital gold, Ethereum, the one they'll probably interact with most, ICOs, DeFi, this kind of thing. Tether, stablecoin, Binance represents Binance, and then Dogecoin, it's a meme coin, it just exists for fun. Cardano, But what's Cardano about? Well, it's kind of hard to know, isn't it? It's a smart contract platform that doesn't have any smart contracts yet. And, yep, it's just kind of famous for being in the top 10. So what is Cardano's USP? Well, it's research. That's what its USP is, research. So it's time for a bit of history. So the project launched in 2015 when Charles Hoskinson, who was one of the co-founders of Ethereum, left that project to work on a new concept proof-of-stake blockchain.
Hi, I'm Charles Hoskinson, Chief Executive Officer of Input Output Hong Kong, and I'm here today to talk a little bit about Cardano.
Cardano was intended to offer significant improvements on Ethereum, so instead of architecting the software and features himself, Hoskinson adopted a peer-reviewed academic approach. And since then, the Cardano research team has published over 100 academic research papers, from distributed systems to programming language and game theory and a bunch more. Byron was the first era of Cardano, which began in September 2017 and allowed users to exchange Cardano's ADA currency on a federated network by utilizing the Ouroboros consensus protocol. And if you don't know what an Ouroboros is, it's a snake that is eating its own tail. It seems to represent infinity or something like that. It could also represent a savage beast slowly consuming itself until there's nothing left. I don't know. Now, the next upgrade, called Shelley, took place in mid-2020, and with it, the network was upgraded to a state where the majority of nodes would be run by the community and not a centralized group. Now, back in March, the Mary hard fork enabled users to issue their own tokens on the network alongside the ADA token. And now everyone is mad excited for the imminent arrival of the Goguen era with Alonzo, where developers will finally be able to build smart contracts on Cardano on a platform they're calling Plutus. Now, what's interesting is that while we're now comfortable with the idea of Ethereum as a layer 1 and something like Polygon as a layer 2, Cardano is actually built from the ground up with two distinct layers of its own: the Cardano settlement layer, the CSL, and the Cardano computation layer, the CCL. And this is the feature that really sets Cardano apart from other layer 1s, but it has been the product of a marathon period of academic work. In an interview with Crypto Briefing, which we'll come back to again and again in this film, Charles Hoskinson explained, Cardano conducted a 4-year research and development efforts to come up with the ideal programming model for smart contracts. What's exciting is that Alonzo is actually where we are turning all of that on. So this is the culmination of years and years of research. Alonzo is the moment. And will we finally see smart contracts explode on Cardano? Well, that is the great big hope. But we have to stop here and just take stock for a moment, because 4 years to get to smart contracts. Now, when I was at Harmony, we got there in just a single year. And you see, that's kind of the remarkable thing about Cardano. The network is incredibly valuable, yet nobody has really been able to build anything on it. And while everything else in crypto moves faster than anything we've ever seen, Cardano resolutely refuses to play that game. Now, according to Hoskinson, the slow pace was mostly down to engineering delays. It happened because we chose the wrong approach and wrong tactics, and we had to fix those, and it took quite a bit of time. It's a fair criticism that Haskell, the programming language they use, was not ready when we chose it to build stuff. So why did they choose to build with it in the first place? We had to modernize the language a little bit, and that was one of the reasons we had so many delays in 2018 and 2019. We rewrote Cardano 3 times to get it to its current state. Now look, any other project that moved this slowly, that took this much time, would be completely savaged, abandoned, probably left for dead. But that hasn't happened. And there might be a good reason for that. Well, 2, actually. Now, many projects have claimed to be better than ETH. Like many. And we've covered the ETH killers narrative in our Solana film, so there's no need to repeat that here. But what always tends to happen is that everything is wonderful and amazing, and it's going to be this bright future of high-speed, high-throughput chains. But then the mainnet launches, and the cold, hard reality of life as a real blockchain emerges. And because you can see quite clearly how much the network is actually being used, there is nowhere to hide. And time again, these big chains with their big claims were unable to live up to the hype, even if they managed to gain some traction. That cold, hard comparison with ETH, the chain they were supposed to eviscerate, was always unfavorable. But Cardano has kind of mostly avoided that because Well, in its current state, it can't really be compared. It's still in that glorious honeymoon of hype, where the promise is a gossamer fantasy tantalizingly out of reach on the horizon. And there is, of course, every chance that once we reach it, once we get smart contracts, Cardano will suffer the same soul-crushing existential crisis every other Layer 1 pretender has had to go through. And it's not like Cardano hasn't had its fair share of criticism, and Charles is very, very outspoken.
I am very skeptical on Cardano. There's no application there. All you can do is stake and maybe send. There is no app layer. There's no assets. There's no trading. There's no Uniswap. I will put on my very skeptical hat and call Cardano perhaps a blatant scam.
But let's just, for shits and giggles, do a little bit of low-level, low-rent comparison between Cardano and Ethereum. So let's look at the block time. The Ethereum block time is currently around 13 seconds. On Cardano, it's 20 seconds. So ETH is technically faster. The average cost of a transaction on ETH today is about $9.40, and the cost of an ADA transaction, ADA, is 0.17 ADA, and at today's price of $1.56, that makes it around 27 cents to transact. Which isn't a lot, but it is a lot compared to Polygon, for instance. And in the last 24 hours, there were 38,473 transactions on Cardano, compared to 1,287,259 on Ethereum, which puts Cardano, weirdly enough, below the LTO network, for instance. So truth be told, it's quite slow, it's not that cheap, and it's not processing that many transactions yet. Although there do seem to have been an absolutely absurd number of tokens issued on Cardano since the Mary hard fork. And yeah, here's Charles again from earlier in the year. But there could be a very good reason why there aren't that many transactions at the moment, and that's because there is really only one thing you can actually do at the moment, and that is stake. And boy, is there a lot of value staked right now. Over 73% of the existing ADA is participating in staking, which seems to be paying out around 7.3% annualized. Now, it is worth noting Cardano staking is not bonded, so you can withdraw it anytime without penalty, and it automatically compounds if you're using the deedless wallet. So that's nice, actually very nice. So let's look at that value, $35 billion in staked value on the network doing nothing but earn interest. Now, however you want to spin it, that is a lot, and it's a number we'll come back to later. But if we compare, for instance, sub-second block times on Solana or the 76,000 daily active users on the Chai payment network on Terra, Cardano doesn't really seem to stack up that well. So what is it that's keeping all that value locked up in this project and has done for such a long time?
Charlie says always tell your mummy before you go off somewhere.
Well, I talked about that idea of a glorious extended honeymoon. And the thing is, if you're going to embark on an epic 4-year journey, you're going to need one hell of a travel companion. And that is where Mr. Charles Hoskinson comes in. Because he is, without doubt, the most vocal, the most passionate, provocative, and bearded soul in the space. And he plays a huge part in the mystique and the grand narrative around Cardano. So who is Charles Hoskinson? Well, Charlie boy, Charles was a co-founder of Ethereum alongside Vitalik and spent 6 months working on it before the now legendary boardroom brawl. As Charles himself has said, for example, with Ethereum, the choice of a for-profit versus a not-for-profit, its brain...
We had to make a hard decision about the business future for Ethereum. So we could either be a not-for-profit, set up a foundation, do an ICO, and be a really technical project like Apache or Linux. Or we could set up a for-profit entity, set up a board of directors, get VC funding, and be more like Red Hat or be more like Ripple and basically run the company this way. So there were strong arguments on both sides, for-profit or not-for-profit. At the time, we called it Crypto Google versus Crypto Mozilla, was kind of our big debate. So, or you could conceptually think of it as forming consensus prior to forming Ethereum. So originally we decided, well, Crypto Google makes sense. And when we started going down that road, Vitalik didn't like it so much, and some other people in the project didn't like it so much. And eventually they decided to have the pendulum swing to the other side. Now, my argument against the not-for-profit was, at first I would assume that everybody would just leave, because there was no incentive to stay. There were no golden handcuffs. So once people got paid, they would just branch off, start their own companies. Maybe those companies would be Ethereum related, maybe they wouldn't be, but we'd basically lose all of our talent. Whereas if we had the for-profit, we could vest people, have equity in these types of things, and they'd have to stick around for a while. The other thing was, this was real risky. If we did an ICO and what if the product didn't work? There would be lawsuits and regulatory problems and so forth. Whereas here we'd be spending smart money, VC money. So this felt like a higher probability of success, higher probability of keeping things together. Plus the project had become quite bloated. There was about 100 people by June of 2014. The relationships, who's doing what, where, who's a volunteer, who's actually going to get Ether, that wasn't completely clear, especially when you went 2-3 separations outside of the founding set. So Vitalik had to make a decision, and Vitalik made this decision. I left, Amir Shatrit left at the same time as well. Shortly thereafter, Anthony left, and Joe left. Joe formed Consensus, Anthony formed Decentral, Amir does lots of consulting, Mihai formed Akasha. Then the tech side started leaving, Gavin left and created Parity, and Jeff, I think, is having fun somewhere. And Vitalik is still around.
It is clear, reading the accounts of what happened, that this experience really left its mark on Charles, and it was 6 months before he felt ready to come back. Now, he'd already spent some time with Dan Larimer, helping to develop what then became BitShares, and then he was approached by a former Ethereum colleague, Jeremy Wood, to form a new project called IOHK, Input Output Hong Kong, an engineering and research company that would build cryptocurrencies and blockchains. Now, IOHK's principal project now is, of course, Cardano. Now, Charles is by no means the only person working on Cardano, but he is both its cheerleader and its frontman, driven by a passion to set the standard by which a public blockchain should be measured. What has really disturbed me about my industry is that some of my competitors have made statements about the performance of their systems, the scale and the capability of their systems with no evidence at all, no scientific evidence, no scale, no benchmarking, no prototyping. And of course, this is now why Cardano have moved so slowly. This is why every move forward is so carefully peer-reviewed. And the thing about Charles is he is not shy about speaking up. Oh no, not at all. You can find him regularly live streaming on his YouTube channel. He appears relentlessly on podcasts, TV shows and blogs. He has a lot to say. And it often rubs people the wrong way. There have been public jabs at Dan Larimer, Vitalik, Justin Sun, Peter Schiff, and many more. He even agreed to an MMA bout with YouTuber Chico Crypto, a man who struggles to even say the word Ethereum.
Neo is a smart contracts platform that is similar to Ethereum. What? Ethereum.
So I guess it wouldn't have been such a challenge for Charles, who is, shall we be charitable, not the most in-shape human in the world. But sadly, that MMA bout never happened. Shame. So Charles is something of a renegade. And on Charles's Twitter account, he calls himself the King of the Rats. He loves to call out the trolls, but from what I can gather, Charles himself is probably the biggest troll of them all.
Charlie!
Charles has a highly successful YouTube channel with nearly 200,000 subscribers, significantly more than we do, for instance. And he broadcasts a lot, often in response to famous people like how to fix Doge, brackets for Elon Musk.
Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live.
This is how he responded to Mark Cuban.
Hi, this is Charles Hoskinson broadcasting live.
And do you remember when J.K. Rowling was all like, yeah, what's this Bitcoin about, yeah? Guess who stepped up? Yep, Charlie boy.
I'm making a very special, very unusual video today.
Now, I've watched a lot of his videos this week, and something kept nagging me about it. Like, it felt familiar, like something I'd seen before. And then it hit me.
Hey, all you cool cats and kittens.
Okay, so I'm being unfair here, probably. But there is a strange feeling of personality cult around all of this that I just can't shake. But Charles, to give him his credit, uses his voice and uses his platform to engage with his community on an almost daily basis. And they seem to really like it. There is no doubt Charles is a great salesman, and what I've noticed is that he loves to drop in big numbers, big facts to support his pitch, more often than not superlatives, like this one. Cardano is 1.6 million times more energy efficient at the moment than Bitcoin, and that was from an interview with Stephen Ehrlich at Forbes. I've seen this argument propagated all over the place, particularly in light of Elon's recent withdrawal of Bitcoin as a payment for Tesla. And I found a bunch of articles which claimed that Cardano describes itself as the most environmentally sustainable cryptocurrency. But actually, I couldn't find any evidence of Cardano actually saying this outright anywhere. But the source of all this seems to be a piece of research by TRG Data Centers, which attempted to rank popular currencies by which consumed the least power per transaction. And yes, Cardano seems to be significantly less power hungry than Ethereum, but then that kind of is the difference between proof of work and proof of stake. And if we look at that research, IOTA actually has a far greater claim to being the low impact on the environment king. And even Doge is 5 times less impactful than Cardano. So, numbers. Now, another big claim is Cardano's decentralization, which, if you remember, was the big mission of the Shelley phase of the roadmap, which Cardano has been in since the middle of last year. Now, again, in that interview with Crypto Briefing, Charles says this: Cardano is the most decentralized, in my view, for block production. In Bitcoin, there are 10 major mining operations that produce more than 50% of the blocks. In comparison, Cardano has more than 2,000 stake pools, and about 200 to 400 of the stake pools produce 80% of the blocks. So Cardano is about 20 to 40 times more decentralized in terms of block production. About 20 to 40. Whatever. The system is elastic and is designed to get more stake pools over time. Eventually, we will have tens of thousands of stake pool operators. Yeah, that's big picture stuff. Now, look, I didn't have the time or the resources to go through and really properly analyze this, but it does seem that media outlets are taking this as truth, that the more value is staked on a network, the more decentralized it is, which seems a slightly troubling piece of analysis because it doesn't really take into account staking weight. But weirdly, when you look at the list of the top 100 staking accounts on Cardano, there is one monster one with 247 million ADA staked, which we can sort of discount, but then a weirdly long list of those with around about 65 million. And there's probably a good reason for this, like there's an upper limit or something, but it does mean that there are in fact quite a lot of equally weighted accounts. And that's probably a good thing. So let's bring it back to DeFi, because we are the Defiant. What does Cardano do in DeFi? What does Cardano believe about DeFi? And where do they think the value lies? Well, in that very same Crypto Briefing interview, he gave a pretty good insight as to where he thinks things are going. He said, we will have NFT marketplaces, DEXs, stablecoins, and oracles, all the usual suspects. A lot of these protocols are very easy to replicate. Well, we know that already, don't we? We are formalizing them at the moment, so we have a complete understanding of how they run. We have a project with runtime verification where we are writing the blueprints for all DeFi primitives like Uniswap, SushiSwap, and so forth. We are simply going to re-implement them on Cardano. It's better, faster, cheaper, and more predictable on our system versus Ethereum. There is also an open question of liquidity and customers, and we have some strategies for that. Another advantage, that Cardano has over Ethereum is a built-in decentralized VC catalyst that has over $250 million available for funding DApps. We will fund 100 to 200 ventures in the next 3 months, not only new DApps, but also migrations to Cardano. So they're just going to buy themselves an ecosystem. And why not? That obviously worked for EOS, didn't it? But if there was one piece of news that came out that really points the way to what Charles is thinking, it's this. The biggest blockchain deal ever. You know those superlatives? Here's another one. And this will see them create a blockchain-based digital identity for 5 million students and teachers to verify grades, monitor school performance, and boost nationwide education. And in a live stream, Charles made it clear that Africa, for him, represents the greatest opportunity for DeFi.
Over the next 50 to 100 years, with new systems, it is my belief that the African continent will become one of the wealthiest in mankind, and the days of Mansa Musa will return. And then my own country will look to that, and they'll have to make a decision. Do we want to enter a dark age of collapse and poverty, or do we want to change and adopt the African way? And things will get better. Now, we look to our industry and we think about things like DeFi. I laugh at DeFi at the moment, not because I think the projects are bad or the products are bad or that the teams are not motivated, but because they don't have real markets. No one in America wakes up at the moment, or Germany or France and England says, boy, I just can't wait to get a car loan on a decentralized peer-to-peer lending network.
there might be one or two cryptocurrency people that really love that stuff and they're fired up and they're ready to go for it. But the vast majority of people don't even know what that is or how to do it or how to use it. You don't use a new system because of its novelty or because you love the brand or enjoy it. Some people do, but the vast majority of people use things out of necessity or convenience. And when we look to people who have no access to credit, the reality is that their first loan is likely going to come from a peer-to-peer marketplace and likely be denominated in a cryptocurrency-based asset, not a local currency.
Haven't we seen this all before, banking the unbanked? Doesn't it seem strange that a rich white man from his ranch in Colorado is making all these predictions about Africa? I don't know, something about it slightly jars for me, but that is just me. So there is a strategy here to bring these products into the developing world, but on the DeFi side on Cardano, it is super early. I couldn't really find very much. There is OccamFi, a DeFi launchpad solution that's also partnering with Bondly to bring NFTs to the chain. There's also Liquid Finance, a decentralized money market with lending and borrowing. And there's Giro Wallet, hope I'm pronouncing that right, which calls itself your master key to DeFi. But yeah, there's not a lot. And honestly, none of that really matters at this stage because you can reduce the entire Cardano DeFi opportunity to a single number. And of course, it is that $35 billion in staked collateral. That represents a huge commitment to Cardano and its ecosystem. And it's making a cool 7.3% every year. But what if it could do more? Solana hit $1 billion in TVL for its DeFi ecosystem earlier this month, and that is a huge percentage of its overall market cap. But if only 3% of that locked collateral in Cardano decided to move into DeFi, it would surpass that. And that's why I do not think that you can ignore Cardano when it comes to DeFi. Yes, it might have taken an excruciatingly long time to deliver, but something is keeping all of that capital loyal. And once it has something to do, then I fully expect it to get properly busy. And if we look at the number of tokens that have been issued since Mary, over 200,000, people are ready to build on Cardano. What they're going to build, I don't know, but I expect we will see every single successful protocol that's built on Ethereum forked or migrated or something to Cardano. And if they can't offer incentives to the likes of Sushi and Yearn to migrate over, then who can? But I want to end on one question here, which is, what happens if you take Charles away from Cardano? What do you do if something happens to him? So much of the energy, success, mystique, aura of this project seems to rest on him that you could say, despite them being the most decentralized project in crypto, they're also kind of the most centralized. Isn't that strange? So maybe it is that those phases on the roadmap are wrongly labeled. Maybe it's time for Cardano to evolve beyond the Charles era. With the release of smart contracts, hopefully all will be revealed. Charles himself sees a multi-chain, interoperable future for blockchain. And if DeFi as a whole, across all the different blockchains, can suddenly access even a tiny fraction of the capital that exists on the Cardano blockchain, then is anyone really going to complain? Something to ponder. Thank you for watching. This was the Defiant.